Buenas tardes, señorita.
Buenas noches. ¿Cómo tú
Oh,
estás?
sorry. Buenas noches. There you go. You see? Put it up to me, I'll get you in trouble.
Sorry.
Que fecha es hoy?
¿Qué dijiste? No te oí.
Oh boy, that's too much. I think we'll leave it there, doctor.
Like, subscribe, and share to Voices of Linden TV.
Welcome to another edition of the Let's Talk Show. I'm your host, Andrew James, and tonight I'm pleased to have with us in studio Dr. Delisa Inniss, a former Mackenzie High School student for just 3 months. 2005, she was a student from January to March, and Dr. Inniss was a student at the St. Joseph High School from the year 2000 to the year 2005. Dr. Inniss is currently serving as a medical attendant at the Guyana Shore-based Inc. She has proudly served in many regions across the country of Guyana. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Delisa Inniss.
Hi, thank you. It's my pleasure being here to have a laugh with you. As you said, let's talk. So it's my pleasure.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Inniss. Let's talk about your experience growing up in the town of Linden.
It was fun. I was the lone girl between a lot of guys. So as they say, I was a tomboy, climbing trees, flicking, playing cricket, football, rolling down the sand hills, you name it, I've done it. I've enjoyed my childhood in Linden. It was the best. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm. And in terms of your schooling, where did you transition from I guess, from your primary, secondary, university to get to where you are? If you can share a little bit about that with us, that'll be fantastic.
Okay, sure, no problem. So I started my early education at Pine Street Nursery. I grew up with my grandparents and aunts. So my grandmother said at the age of 2 years and 7 months, she sent me to nursery school because I was a chatterbox. Actually, growing up, they used to call me Dilly Crackle because I talk nonstop. So she sent me to school very early. She wasn't having that. So I started school at the Pine Street Nursery. Then I
Mhm.
went on to Regma Primary School. And when I was in primary two, I transitioned to St. Ambrose Primary and then straight to St. Joseph. So at St. Joseph High, I was there until 2005, January, when Guyana had a flood, very big flood. It affected the East Coast. So I was living with my dad, and his home was affected. So we had to seek refuge, I would say, back in our hometown in Linden on higher ground. So I ended up at Mackenzie High School from January to March of that same year. It
Mhm.
was it was a lovely experience because it was a different high school, different culture, but then I got to reunite with some friends that I had from since Regma days and even some friends from Pine Street days that I wouldn't have seen in years. So it was really nice being there for those 2 months. It was lovely. I'm the type of person I adapt to all changes. So I just fell in the groove.
Anyone you want to shout out from Mackenzie High School that you can remember during a couple of months that you were there?
Oh yes. So if I have to shout out two people, it will definitely be Sheridan Murray and Alon Daly. They're both doctors. We've been friends. I didn't know them from primary school. We met at Mackenzie High, and then we went to Cuba together, same year, and we graduated together. And these are two of my best friends, to date. So give Dr. Daly and Dr. Murray a shout out.
Very nice, very nice. Dr. Ennis, can you tell us about some of the challenges you experienced during your, I guess, avenue or junior channel to become a doctor?
Okay, sure, no problem. So challenges that I experienced, they didn't really start until I went to Cuba. Because while here, after high school, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor from very small, even before I can remember. My grandmother always said that, that's something I always said, that I would be a doctor. And I have never been interested in any other career. I've always wanted it and I worked towards it. So I was very focused. After high school, I went to the University of Guyana at just 16. So the original plan was to pursue biology 1 year and then switch over to medical school. But before the completion of that first year, they were sharing out scholarships to go to Cuba. They had 300 scholarships available. So I applied. Even though I only had my CXC subjects, I applied and I got through. So I went to Cuba. That's where the challenges started. I had a foundation in Spanish, but actually being there, I realized that foundation, it wasn't really a foundation at all. So learning the language at first was one of my biggest challenges, because when you learn a language, you learn, basically it's like the standard Spanish. But having to mix with the Cubans and going in the streets, you realize they speak Creole just the way we have our Creole English.
Right.
They speak broken Spanish. And so you had to learn Spanish and, what I would say, learn Cuban. Because when they realize that you're a foreigner, then obviously, as any other country, people will try to take advantage of you. So that was one of my biggest challenges at first. But then when I got into the language, as each year go by, it came with different challenges. And being there for 6 years, 8 months, 1 week, and 2 days, it was not bad. I counted every day I was in Cuba. I can tell you that. It wasn't a bed of roses, but it was worth it in the end. It was worth it. And I am glad that even though being alone for so long, not having mother, father, or anybody who's a family member there, basically you had to form your own family. I have some friendships that I made in Cuba that are like my sisters now, because we had to depend on each other, find strength from each other. You feel pain, I feel your pain. You're happy, I'm happy for you. That sort of things. Sorry. So the challenges came, but we stayed on course, and yeah, we're here
Very
now.
nice. How's your Spanish today?
My Spanish is still perfect today, because my friends and we still speak Spanish to each other, especially if we're in public and want to talk about something that we don't want somebody to know. We still speak Spanish to each other. We still practice with each other.
Buenas tardes, señorita.
Buenas noches. ¿Cómo tú estás?
Sorry. Buenas noches. There you go. You see? Put it up to me, I'll get you in trouble. ¿Qué fecha es hoy?
¿Qué dijiste? No te oí.
Oh boy, that's too much. I think we'll leave it there, doctor.
Okay.
I read your story. I know you're a good doctor. I know you're a very strong doctor. I read your story. You lost your husband, and through it all, you kept on fighting for your young girls. How did you manage? If you don't mind sharing with others, how did you manage to get through the process? If you don't mind sharing with us, I know. And by the way, I know it's a little late, but please, accept my sympathy on the passing of your husband, of course.
Okay. First off, thank you for your sympathies. How do I manage? Two things. First, only God. So only God helps me on a day-to-day. And secondly, I'm gonna be a bit blunt. A lot of people don't agree with my method, but at the end of the day, it's what works for me. So because of my job, my profession, my career, because of my training, I have learned to turn off my emotions. Sometimes you have a favorite patient and they pass. In that moment, I can't get emotional because I'm trying to give the news to the family and stand there as support to the family. So I can't be emotional. So I've learned to turn off my emotions. And it is a good and it's a bad. It's good when I'm at work. not get emotional, just do the job, even though I'm still feeling for my patients, do my job. But the bad comes in when it's family, because even with family, I find that I don't know how to flip that switch. I don't know how to just turn on my emotions. Okay, this is my family. It's okay to feel and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to register. So, because of that, when I learned of my husband's passing, because he passed at New Amsterdam Hospital, he was
Mm-hmm.
in Linden all the time, but I figured he knew he was going to die. He kept saying he wanted to go home, so he went with his mom to New Amsterdam. So it was around lunch, a Monday, the 30th of September 2019. I collected my daughter from nursery school, the youngest. Well, the younger, sorry, because it's two daughters I have. So I
Mm-hmm.
collected her. I was driving, going home when his cousin called me and she was like, "Your black stallion is gone." So I'm like, what? And then she repeated herself. So in that moment, I have to think about my child who's sitting there. I can't get emotional. I'm driving a car and, I just said, okay, I disconnected the call. And in that moment, I kept my emotions turned off. And that's how I have been dealing with it ever since. There
Mm-hmm.
are days that I allow myself to feel, but I try not to feel too much, because the minute my two daughters notice a change in my attitude or see a change on my face, they get emotional and I have to be strong for them. So that's why I always keep my emotions in check. Well, I shouldn't say keep my emotions in check. I keep them turned off completely,
Mm-hmm.
and that I deal with it. And only God could give me the strength to do that, to be honest. It's not easy, but I have to do it for my children.
Thank you for being brave, courageous, and strong. You're doing it because of your faith and the love for your children, of course. Doctor, when did the light switch moment for you happen? When did you realize that you had it in you and you're cut out and this is what you were destined to be? When did you realize that you were going to really get into the medical field and aspire to become a doctor?
Oh, so I was in nursery school. I remember this well. I was in nursery school, my second year of nursery school. Usually, I have an aunt who works at NIS. She's been working there since before my time. And after school, I used to just go over the road and stay with her until time to go home. I remember this particular day. I can't remember what happened, why I didn't go to NIS, but my grandmother told me after school, I'm going to cross over with the boat and my big brother will be there waiting for me to take me home, right? Because we
Mm-hmm.
were living on Wisma Shore. So crossing over with the boat, when we arrived on Wisma Shore, right at Station Landing, there was a
Mm-hmm.
dead body right there. This guy drowned, and they finally found his body, and they had the body right at the landing. And even though I was so small, like it didn't freak me out, it didn't scare me. I was just there, like right there by the body. And then somebody was like, "Whose child is this? Why is this child so brave?" And then my brother was like, "It's time to go." We left. So even then, like I said, since I was small, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and that just cemented it more in me. Like I wanted in my mind to figure out why he drowned, why he died, how did he die, and another incident that caused me to go down this path even more in primary. I was in Form 1, sorry. In Form 1, my high school best friend, my primary school best friend, sorry, she died. She got burnt and she died. So I went to school the morning and then they brought her body up from Sandy's to Linden, and I was in the vehicle that was taking the body up. So when I got up there, we stopped at the church. A lot of people were like, "Wow, this child is so brave, just being around a dead body." Little did they know, in my mind, I wanted to be a doctor, and more so, I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. So that's
Yes.
why dead bodies, used to excite me. Not excite
Mhm.
me, but I was just curious about the workings of the body, why the person died, what happened to cause the death. So it has always intrigued me. So I always knew that I will go down this path.
Some of your friends at St. Joseph High School describe you as a fun and full of energy. It says you got a full uh, Again, describing. But you know, they describe it as this is oh you're gonna like this doctor. This is a good doctor.
Yeah.
Can you share some of your fond memories of St. Joseph High School with us, please?
Well, I do believe they would say something like that. I am glad of the party, trust me. I'm very fun and down to earth. So some of my fond memories, I remember we had this particular teacher would come in the class in the middle of teaching. She always liked to put a chair or a desk by the door and take a seat and then continue teaching.
Right.
Although she used to sell stuff too. You remember back in the days they would sell tamar and these kind of things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
a desk broke in the classroom. And we just, well, I was the ringleader, right?
yeah.
Fit the desk together and just put it right at the spot where she sits. We didn't nail it up back or anything. We just put it there. So she came in, Miss P was teaching, and of course she went and she took a seat and she just fell flat on the floor.
Oh
Right?
Lord. Jeez.
She fell. Obviously, everybody started to laugh, and she's on the floor rowing, and she was like, "I know this has to be Inniss." And she went on and on and on, and she was like, "I'm not getting up until somebody pick me up."
Uh-uh.
So said that, I just got up and I was like, please put two tamra ball. When I said that, my girl just sprang up like, she had a spring and started, and then everybody else started asking for tamra ball. So she fall down and just want to sell out her stuff. Yeah, but in the end, I still had to go to the principal's office, but still, it was funny as it is. I got a teacher who saw me the other day, and this was before I became a mother. She saw me and she was like, "I'm surprised to see you on the road. You are so mischievous. Why aren't you locked up?" I said, "No, I'm working at a hospital now." And she said, "What? You're a cleaner?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a cleaner. I'm a doctor." And she said, "What? You're a doctor?" Clutch her chest. I'm like, "Wow,
Uh-uh.
that's bad." But I was a bad child. I was mischievous. I was always looking for ways to entertain myself. And as my then headmistress said to me, the only reason she won't suspend me is because I actually do my work. And there was a science fair coming up and they needed me to get that first prize. So she didn't suspend me because of that. But I was mischievous at school.
But you were essential and well loved and much needed.
Yes, that's true.
What advice would you give to a young person who's aspiring to get into the medical field and to some degree emulate your footsteps and, if I may, be like you?
First off, I would tell them, don't try to be like me. You have to develop your own rhythm and try to be
Hmm.
like yourself. However, if you want to follow some of the steps that I took, yes, you can do that. I would advise anybody who would like to fall into the medical field, don't do it because you want this hype, like, oh, she's a doctor, or don't do it because you think that it's a lot of money. It really isn't. So don't do it for the money. Do it for the love. You have to love what you do. That's the only way you can be great at what you're doing, because there
Mm.
will be days when you're frustrated at work and you question yourself as to why you are where you are in terms of your career and what you're doing. And then you have to remind yourself that it's the love of helping people. It's the joy that you get when you see people, a patient remembering you, they come back to you and be like, "Doctor, you remember me? I was sick and you helped me." And that's the greatest joy, the greatest payment that you can receive while being a doctor. So if you can do it for these reasons and develop the actual lifestyle, because being a doctor or being in the medical field, it's not just a profession or a career, it's a lifestyle. And if you can do it for these reasons, then I don't think you should, because these are the things that motivate you to study hard and to actually finish the course and then to continue when you actually graduate and you have that doctor in front of your name. Another thing I would encourage young people who want to get into this field, when you become a doctor, always remember where you came from. There's no doctor on your birth certificate. It's just the title. So the
Mm.
same person try to remain the same humble person that you've always been. The same respect you would give to your CEO or your supervisor, you give that same respect to a security guard, a cleaner, the cook. Everybody should be treated with the same respect. And your patients will feel more comfortable talking to you. You will get more information out of them if they see that you are just human, just like them. But if you act in a stuck up way and they're afraid of you, they will shut down on you. They won't talk to you. So these are qualities that you need to perfect before completing medical school, because they don't teach you that in classroom.
She said, when you don't have your doctor uniform on or when you're not at work, what do you do for fun? Apart from spending time with the girls, of course.
What I do for fun, I feel like an old person now because my friends and I, we hardly catch up because of the pandemic. Of course, we can't link as we used to, because at least once a month we used to link. Me being in Linden, them in town, we link up, have a femination night, as we call it, femination. But because of the pandemic, we can't do that. So mostly you'd find that when I'm not at work and I'm not spending time with my daughters, I read a lot. I sometimes I will take a drive, or a walk just to calm my head. And well, I'm an occasional drinker, so yeah, sometimes I just take a glass of wine or something and relax. That's about it for my boring life until the pandemic is over. Then I can get back to my usual fun activities.
Non-alcoholic wine, I'm sure.
Yes, of course, because also apart from all of this, I'm saying I am a Christian, so I also partake in youth ministries a lot, especially with the Pathfinder and Master Guide clubs. So yes, non-alcoholic wine,
Very
occasional.
good. Non-alcoholic wine, I would say, I think is the best wine.
Oh yes, it is. It is.
Praise
I
the
agree.
Lord. Okay. What advice, Doctor? We're just punching up against time. What do you think we can do as a group or as an association to influence change in the lives of one student or multiple students, it being back at St. Joseph or specifically at Mackenzie High School?
Okay, so one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of groups want to target youths and make positive changes for them. However, I think that they wait too late, because when we go to the high school level, most times you go to the high schools and you try to develop programs for them. It's already fourth, fifth form. By then, these children already have an idea of what they want to do. Those who want to go down a wrong path, most times they've already started. Um, so it's like we have to bend the tree while it's young. We need to start addressing them at a younger level, primary 3, primary 4, start making the changes from there. So by the time they get to that high school age, passing through puberty, dealing with peer pressure and all of that, we would have already targeted them, give them tools to help them pass through this phase. So we will have more successful young people, not only successful academically, because as we know, not everyone is cut out for the academics. Some people they thrive on the trade, they learn that trade well, they are successful. But by then, if we target them at a younger age, we will be able to make a more positive influence on them, and they in turn will be more successful at the end. They will have the tools to pass through peer pressure, not give in. So we need to address them at a younger age. So that's something that I would say we can do. Start addressing them at that grade 5, grade 6 level, give them the tools to go into high school, because that's the real battlefield for your youth, for the adolescent age. High school can be terrible for some kids. So we need to prepare them, equip them to go through that phase.
My final question to you, why do you think young people are leaving religious organizations, it being the church, the mosque, the temples, wherever they go? Why is it that young folks are leaving these organizations? And that will be my final question for you tonight, Doc.
Okay, well, What I can say, a lot of people leave their religion that they grew up with because there's no bridge between the generational gap. A lot of folks, when they grow up, they forget what they used to do when they were young, and they look down on young people who are doing these things. Now, bear in mind, I'm not saying because you did this mean that you have to accept a younger person doing it. What I'm saying is that because you would have struggled with it and you did this, you know how it feels. So in turn, you are now supposed to try to help that person get over it instead of talking about them in a condescending way and having that person feel belittled. And obviously, young people, when the older folks do that and a younger person know that, well, this older person did it, they're going to be like, oh, you're a hypocrite and this and that. And it causes tension. And then you find that the younger person slips out to the church and it's hard to get them in back. And because of this generational gap, we need to bridge the generational gap if we want to keep our young people in church or in the mosque or at the temple, because it's happening a lot in society.
Doctor, I think we're going to leave it there. This on behalf of the Let's Talk Show, executive producer and our director, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for sharing your time with us. It was wonderful talking with you. If I ever need a good doctor, I mean, my doctor's fantastic, of course, but if I ever need a second good doctor, I know where to find you.
Yes, you do. You can always call me or message me. I'll be your second opinion, no problem. And thank you for having me. It was nice being here, honestly.
It's good to see you after so many years, Doc. Be good, stay safe, and follow all the precautions as it relates to, social distancing and wearing your mask and so on. Be safe. God bless you, and we'll be in touch soon. Good night.
Good night.